Good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch, live to you from Hurricane Central here in Florida, and welcome to Morning Coffee with Mitch. Drink it if you got it. Been up. Been up since around 5 o'clock. Slept great. I slept great. I think I slept great because I've got a plan to deal with what they're forecasting to be the worst of what's liable to happen to us. And I'm pretty well assured that the worst is not going to happen. It's Wednesday morning, October the 9th. It's raining, but it's at this point just a light rain. Just a light rain. The birds out there are still chirping away in the trees. And happy birds mean the danger isn't quite foreboding yet. The storm is scheduled to make landfall tonight in Tampa, about 150 miles from here. We're going to feel the effects of the feeder bands. There'll be thunderstorms. There may even be a few embedded tornadoes. It's not going to be pretty. But I've got most of today to finish gathering up what I want to take with me. And as the forecast begins to gel more, which it will during the day, that'll dictate exactly how extreme my planning and what I take with me will be. There's different scenarios, all of which were possible 2 days ago, maybe a little less likely yesterday. But it's nice at least to have the luxury of waiting. I hate to say waiting till the last minute, but that's what it boils down to decide how extreme my preparations are between just preparing for the storm to pass overnight while crashing at my son's house to having to plan a whole new life, having lost everything I own. It's kind of a wide range of things to have to consider. I never intended on my Carnivore YouTube channel to take all of you along on the journey in my thought process, but as it's unfolded, it seems that you're interested in it. So I'm going to continue to chronicle this adventure and my thought process along the way. It doesn't mean in any respect that I'm not going to misjudge something, have luck turn against me, or whatever. But I am trying to use logic and common sense and not turn my entire life upside down and then have to rebuild it because what I expected to happen didn't happen. Been through a lot of storms in Florida. There hasn't been one of them yet that, let's say, overperformed. They were always nowhere nearly as bad as I thought they were going to be, and as bad as the weather forecasters on TV made them out to be. Now, I don't find fault with those weather forecasters because people need to be warned. And if there is even a slight chance that you're going to get killed in something, yes, better to err on the side of caution. But that's always a balance. Otherwise, we'd all be living in steel boxes. We'd never get in our cars and go anywhere. We'd never walk out of the house for fear of an errant bus somehow finding us to run us over. I'm going to show you, as soon as I'm done talking here, I'm going to show you my strategy as far as keeping my food safe through the storm. I am now assuming this late in the date, one day before the storm, that my home will survive, which means I'm not going to be taking nearly as much stuff out of it as I would have if I thought a Cat 5 was coming right for my house. And I pretty well knew for sure, or with some certainty, that I wouldn't have a home when I got back, and most of my possessions would be destroyed. I would be loaded for bear. I'm going to take a lot of technology with me. I'm going to take all of my computers themselves, but none of the monitors. I'm taking them because of what their hard drives contain. I'm going to be taking 2 computers, 2 laptops, a spare cell phone, my regular cell phone, and a tablet. 2 tablets, actually. I'm going to be taking all of my cameras that I use in doing this YouTube channel. I'm going to take all of them with me. I'm going to take one of my EcoFlow backup generators, just in case. I really don't want to leave it at home. I want to have one with me because who knows what's going to happen if something unforeseen happens. I'm going to take some food in a cooler, but I don't expect to have to use it. But for some reason, I get stranded somewhere, somehow, I'll at least be able to eat. I'll take some water with me. I'll take some clothes with me, of course, like you would anytime you leave the house. And I will take my important papers with me in a file box. The stuff that I know is going to be necessary. My passport, the title to my car, things like that. My homeowner's insurance policy. The beautiful thing about cell phones is we have almost our entire life stored on that cell phone. Documents, copies of documents, photographs, everything. And I have many digital backups of that data. And I'm going to be taking all the external hard drives with me too. That's not going to be very labor intensive to gather all that stuff up and put it in the back of the car. But unless I see the threat increase over here dramatically, I probably will leave to head over to my son's house later this afternoon. I may have to drive through some rain, but it'll be the kind of rain we normally drive through. There won't be any winds over 20, 30 miles an hour later this afternoon. It won't even be winds from the actual hurricane itself. It may be just some squalls from the feeder bands, and those come and go. It's 15, 20-minute drive to my son's house. I'm going to stay off the interstate probably, and I'll consider it a visit with my family and a sleepover. And that's about it. That's about it. I have no carnivore talk for you this morning other than how I dealt with my food. And I think I'll come through it fine. Best case scenario, this will all be over by 2, 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I will not be flooded in at my son's house where I can get out. I will not be flooded out of my community where I can get in. And if I get home mid to late afternoon, I will bring the computer stuff back in if I have power and if I have an internet connection, which may be doubtful right now. I'll have a live stream for the private community tomorrow night. If I don't have power, if I don't have an internet connection, I may actually try to stream a short message out to you over the cellular connection that I have. It's going to be a stressful and maybe even an enjoyable day, believe it or not, for me. We'll see. The enjoyable part is having my family all together. Something with my grandkids off at college, not something we get to do very often. So I hate cliche, but you know, they always say when you're given a lemon, make lemonade. And I'm going to try to do that and enjoy the time with my family. Keep abreast of what's going on. I'm mentally prepared to deal with what I think might be the worst of it. And I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. And hopefully we can put this down in the record books as having finally dealt with this monstrous size of storm, being lucky enough to be on the other coast, not have it hit us directly, and maybe I'll get a break for another 20 years, because the last time I dealt with this kind of storm was in 2004 with Hurricane Charlie. And I'll take it, and I'll stay in Florida because I love living in Florida. So, my friends, I'm going to show you a couple of clips I just shot about how I'm dealing with my food. I'm going to cut them in here and come back so that you don't miss out on getting the rest of the day off. As far as my food goes, I've packed the inside freezer pretty full. On the bottom there are all steaks, miscellaneous stuff and fish in the doors, bacon, burger. I may still have a little room to put something here, but my thinking is that I'm going to take one of those EcoFlow backups that I have, set it up on the kitchen counter, plug the refrigerator into it, and plug it in the wall. And that'll work like an uninterruptible power supply for the refrigerator. So as long as my house has got power, it won't be using the battery. When the power fails, and it inevitably will, the refrigerator will start to draw power from the UPS, which, considering the fact that if you keep a refrigerator or freezer closed, you can be good for up to a full day. That should certainly keep this thing going for, I would say, at least a day or two after the power fails. Now, it's unlikely our power failure will last that long, so as soon as the power is restored, if it's restored before I get home, it'll start charging up again. And I think that might be one of the best uses for one of those two EcoFlow Delta 2s that I ended up getting. Now, when I get home, and for all indications, my house will survive this. If we still don't have power, that's when I can bring my portable gas generator into play. So that's how I plan to deal with my food supply that I have frozen. This is my outside freezer. I've been purposely trying to eat up most of the steaks that I had stored in here because they were a year old, and I haven't bought any quantity of new ribeyes or New York strips in a while because I just bought too many last year. So right now, even though I have plenty of food, I'm probably not as stocked up on steaks as I once was. I took all the meat. I took all the meat from this freezer except for a 10-pound tube of hamburger, some pork belly, and 3 big racks of ribs. Then, of course, I have ice cubes in here, which I may use or may not, because I may not take any food to my son's house. He's got plenty of food over there. And worst comes to worst, this thing will stay good for 24 hours, unpowered. And if I have to lose any food, I'll sacrifice these ribs. And as you just saw, I've got all the other stuff in the house in the refrigerator. And the reason I decided not to use this freezer instead of the one in the house, even though this one is bigger, is because this one sits out here at probably the lowest point in my house. And if, for some reason, if things turn against us and this backyard of mine floods, it could very well flood this freezer. And I don't want to have all my food in there. So I decided to go with using my freezer in the house. As the forecast looks now, the most we're going to have when it gets over here is a Category 1. And there's no doubt in my mind that this house will survive a Category 1. I've taken some steps. My generator, I put it up off the ground on the workbench because I fully anticipate not to have power when I get home, and I wanted to be able to get at that easily. And where I normally store it is on the floor of a shed under my screen patio, which conceivably, probably, if anything's going to flood, it would be the outside patio, which is 3 feet below the floor level of the house. All right, I hope that gave you a little insight into my thinking. And for now, take the rest of the day off, eat meat, and we'll see you on the other side.